Okay. Hi, everybody. I feel like we were just together not a couple of hours ago, and it was yesterday. And I really enjoyed all of the feedback yesterday as far as class was concerned. Had a lot of private messages of everybody feeling like they've got so much to do. And I just want to remind you that this is a slow pace. We are all entering this process at our own pace, and I am not going anywhere. So try not to be too overwhelmed by the content and the information you're getting. And, take care of yourselves first. And if you feel stressed out, as always, just reminding you to back up from that and come back to it when you don't feel as stressed out about the amount of information that you're receiving. So I am so excited. Jodi is our first expert today. And Jodi, I don't know if I even know how to say your last name right. Is it Cohen?
Oh, Cohen.
Cohen. Jodi Cohen. Okay. So Jodi and I had the opportunity to meet at Mindshare this past summer, which I've been talking about with my students about what an amazing experience that was. And walking side by side with some of the leading health pioneers in our industry has been really cool. But we connected before that because you had put an introduction or a request out for people who were interested in trying your oils in a beta program. And of course, I jumped on it because it was your thyroid package, and I have Hashimoto's. So, and at the time, I was taking 50 micrograms of T4 and 10 micrograms of T3 before I went to the Mindshare Summit. I actually backed down about, I don't know, maybe a half a dose there just to kind of manage the stress, because sometimes we can get overstimulated with our thyroid. And because I knew I was going to be getting that from you at the event, I wanted to go into it with kind of a flatter, like a more of a natural baseline for myself. So, and so when you walked up and handed me that beautiful little box, I was excited. I pulled out the parasympathetic oil that you also handed to me and immediately started using everything.
Yes.
And I have to say the update is, how long have we been back from Mindshare now? What is it? 8 weeks?
Like 2 months.
Okay. So 2 months, and I am only taking 25 micrograms of the T4. So no more T3, and have cut that in half. So I am going to share information in our student page about which one I'm taking and which one has been really useful for me. But I'm just really excited to have you here. And so a little bit about Jodi. She, besides having a fabulous oil line that we're going to learn about, she actually is more things than I thought she was. I had no idea. She's a certified yoga instructor. She's a mother of a beautiful daughter and son and a new puppy. And I actually have to say, I want you to talk about the experience you had recently when you were in that sauna room that I saw you in.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us about that real quick. Tell me about that. Like, what were you doing there and what was that? I was so intrigued.
Okay, so I went to Michael Fishman, who we met at Mindshare, has what's called a think tank, and he brings together 6 entrepreneurs, and it was really magical because it's just nice to, I don't know if you ever get lonely or you don't really know what you're doing. One of the women in that summit owns Cake House, which is Urban Sweat Lodges, and she's in the process of expanding, and so she very generously gifted us all that sweat lodge experience. And so they basically wrap you in kind of like an aluminum sleeping bag, for lack of a better way of putting it, and they gradually raise the temperature to 165 degrees. And so the first 20 minutes are really kind of, you're like, oh yeah, I can handle this. And then the last 30 for me, because I have sensitive skin and I kind of run hot anyway, it was really intense. It was very intense. It's a very intense detoxification effort, but she is fabulous. And she really is kind of in the vortex of knowing what's good for you. So it's just another tool. If you're looking for detoxification, there's castor oil packs, there's Epsom salt baths, there's coffee enemas, and that's just something that you can do yourself.
Right. Tell me, what did you feel that was different when you went in and then when you came out? Did you feel like that? Like when I do my sauna at home, I actually feel kind of exhausted when I come out, almost like I've been through it.
I mean, well, I had a plane to catch. And so I got out and got into the Uber. And then I got into the Uber, and the mother who was supposed to be picking up my daughter from carpool called and said, your daughter's nowhere. And we left without her because my kids said it was fine. And I'm like, all right, maybe this is okay. Couldn't reach my daughter, couldn't reach her dad. It turned out she plays soccer and she's very good. So she'd been invited to play the up-level team. It all worked out, but I think I just was so raw that whereas things that might normally be like, oh, that's interesting, we're like, oh my God, and my daughter's lost in Seattle. It was very intense.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes, anytime I do like a detox type of experience, like saunas or coffee enemas or anything like that, I do come out feeling just a little kind of fluish, sort of, and out of my body, kind of. Yeah.
That was definitely, I would definitely describe. The other thing I think I didn't know, it was very, very intense for me. Like, honestly, I was traveling. I really try to be pristine when I'm not traveling, but when I'm traveling and I'm starving, sometimes I'll eat something that probably isn't the best for me. I was having coffee on that trip. I was not really clean going in.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think I drank wine,
That's what we all do. I get it. We all do that. We should all do that. Let loose a little bit when we're out traveling. So tell me a little bit. You also have your background in nutritional therapy and aromatherapy, and you're gonna talk about how that carried into your business, your essential oils business. So why don't you tell us, like, how did you get started? How did you take your background with nutritional therapy and aromatherapy into this amazing business that you've created? And I really want you to share what's unique about your oils, because I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. So I want it to come from you. What's different about your oils? And just kind of let you run with it.
Well, the background, I actually was not good with nutrition. I used to work for Microsoft. I used to freebase Diet Coke. I was terrible. And then when I was pregnant, for some reason, the whole Diet Coke coffee, I couldn't do it. So I just quit cold turkey. Couldn't tell you why. Had my second child. He was not easy. He would have no impulse control, no focus. We used to try to cue him, look at our nose. That didn't work. So one day we were on a group play date and he was actually being really well behaved, and my friend noticed and said, oh, look at how well he's doing today. And then another mom, it was snack time and she passed around like goldfish or something, and all of a sudden he hit the kid next to him and she goes, okay, that's interesting. He just ate that, and whatever is in that food made him react that way. My brother was on Ritalin his whole life. You should get that checked out. So we went to a nutritionist who said, yep, take him off corn, syrup, and dairy, all the things in those goldfish crackers. And the next day he was a different child. I would say, look at my nose. He'd be like, oh yeah, mommy, sleep, everything. So I was all in. Like, that was very powerful for me. So I went back, I got a degree in nutrition. I was already studying yoga, and life changed. And then I was trying to help other moms. And, it's really hard, I think, to get kids to take supplements. If they can't swallow a pill, you don't have a lot of options. You can mix it in applesauce. You can try to put it in muffins or smoothies, which they may or may not drink. It really felt like everything was hard. And I was constantly looking for ways to make it easier. Yeah. And so I found essential oils kind of that way, like just, little ones like lavender for relaxation, that kind of thing. And then my bottom fell out. I had a situation in my life that completely, those unexpected things that just paralyzed me. And I think I had been deficit spending with my adrenals for years, and they just finally ran out of fuel. The bank was empty. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything, but I had little kids. I had a job. And so friends of mine came over with a bunch of oils and said, these will help you. And I said, oh, great, how? And they're like, nope, you're intuitive, you're smart, and they left. And at that point, I had been practicing nutrition, and I knew how to have muscle test for supplements. So lying up with my pajamas, like, all right, what one's going to work for my adrenals? And I did my little process, and I got 5. And normally I would get 1 supplement, maybe 2. So 5 was weird. And so I thought, well, this is interesting. And then I got the idea, well, I'm supposed to combine them. So I went into my kitchen, got a shot glass, because I had never done this before, and combined the oils and then put them on my adrenals. And I don't know if you've ever had that. Your collar, every time you try to swim to shore, another wave kind of pummels you, and you've got sand in your face, and you can't really see it. You finally get to shore, and you're like, oh my God, like you're just so happy to be alive. That was the experience I had when I put the oils on, and it was so dramatic. I thought, wow, this is amazing. And so I started using them, and over the next month, I slowly started feeling like myself again. And when I felt good enough, I went out to lunch with some other nutritional girlfriends and told them kind of what I was doing. They said, oh my God, we want to try that. So I just, made them, it was like Christmas gifts, like, oh, here's a little sample. And it worked for all of them. It worked for their clients. They're like, we need this. And so at that point, I went online and started Googling, like, oh, someone must be doing this. It's so obvious. And no one was. And I realized that this, there was a lot of value in these oils and these blends, and they could really help you. Started the company.
Okay. So tell me about, so were the oils that you were given by your friends, are those the oils that you began your company with, or where did those come from?
Yeah. So they originally came from Native American Nutritionals. My friends had a relationship with them, and the man who was involved was amazing, Paul Dean, really great guy. That company has since been acquired by Rocky Mountain Oils. He is no longer there. So I now source oils through his ex-wife, who's the one who taught him everything. So we source them from all over the world. They're the highest quality. She's got very high standards, which I love about her. She will only get helichrysum from Corsica. She will only get blue tansy from this one place in Morocco. Like she's a particular shopper, but I do believe, I'm all in with Target or Old Navy for something that my kids are going to outgrow like in a week. But if I'm going to buy like skis for myself or something that will last me years, I want it to be high quality. And I feel that way about the oils. So
Yeah.
we source them from all over the world. I have somebody that helps me do that. And then she helps me. She's kind of a master blender. Blending is so interesting to me because it's a little bit like cooking, right? You can give somebody all the ingredients, but if you don't give them the instructions on how to do it, it doesn't always come out the same way. And even, like you'll go to somebody's house and have this amazing dish and you'll be like, I need that recipe. And then you make it and somehow you follow the instructions, but it doesn't taste the same.
Yes.
So there is an art, I believe, to blending. And so I've retained the person that I think does it best because it matters.
Yeah, it truly does. And you know what I found interesting? I have been, my mom raised me on oils. We did the lavender and we did the frankincense and we did all that when I was little. I mean, she used to put garlic in my ear and when I'd have an infection, like I had a very holistic upbringing. Unfortunately, we veered away from that and thus came in the autoimmunity and the genetic component, of course. So oils have always been kind of on my radar in my life. I used to put them in a pan on the stove and diffuse them through the air to get rid of the smells and things like that with water. But interesting when I was looking up information about like, where did it come from? When did it start? Right. You never really think about the times of Jesus Christ when they said, frankincense and myrrh, you're like, it is as old as time. I mean, it's carbon dated back over 4,000 years in Egypt. I think it's fascinating that of course, this falls in line with conventional medicine and conventional living instead of sticking with the fermented foods and the food that comes out of a clean ground and using oils that make sense. We pushed all of those, traditional medicines and techniques away. And here we are. Everybody can make an oil now. Everyone's making oils and people, unfortunately they're buying them and the quality is just not what it should be. And the price is ridiculous in my opinion. So yeah.
Well, no. And I think I really try to stay away from fear marketing. I don't like kind of the spiral that sends people on. I think that there's something to like, I grew up in Washington State and we have apples. And then I lived in New York State and they have apples. And the apples in both states are fantastic, but they could not be more different. They don't taste the same. And I think that comes to where you get the oils. Like I think there are certain parts of the world that the minerals in the ground just imbue different quality. And so I think it's important that that, if you just want something to smell good, you can absolutely go to Whole Foods and get their lavender. That's totally fine. If you actually want the lavender to have certain healing properties, then you might want to upgrade it a little bit. So I don't like telling people like, that whole marketing thing, like everyone's really bad except for us. We're the only ones that have the really good.
Right.
I think that's a little bit fear-based and unnecessary.
Right.
I just think that, if you know what you're looking for, then you buy certain high quality things that,
Exactly. That's right. It's kind of like if you're going for a ride around the neighborhood, you just need a little nice little bike. But if you're going to go 100 miles, you need a road bike. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And both are fine. There's no diminishing others. But what I think we do differently, I am not a do-it-yourself girl. Like I live in Seattle. We could have chickens in our backyard. I've thought about it, but then I know myself and like the idea of me going out in the pouring rain to get eggs and clean up the poop, I probably would not enjoy that. That's not me. We went raspberry picking, came back with 4 vats. I have jam coming out of my ears in my freezer. I don't know that I'll do that again. I like going to the store and buying one thing when I need it and trusting that I buy high quality and somebody else makes it. And so when I looked at kind of the landscape of the oil companies, I do believe that they're offering high quality oils, but it felt a little overwhelming to me. Like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of guesswork in this. Like maybe I can spend, $500 and buy these 7 different blends. And maybe when I combine them, they'll work, or maybe they won't. Maybe I'll add too much and I'll have to throw away the batch. Like it just felt like a little bit of a risk and with uncertainty about the reward. And so knowing kind of what made sense to me, I really tried to do that for them. So, I've been testing these blends for adrenals. I work with tons of practitioners. They're testing it. We're constantly refining it. These are the blends that I have found in my practice and my experience and that of others to balance the adrenals. These are the blends that I've found to trigger the vagal nerve, so you stimulate the parasympathetic response. You are more than welcome to buy all the raw materials and blend it yourself. If that speaks to your heart, go for it. I'm not going to get in your way. But if you kind of don't really have the interest, the energy, or the time, you just want the solution, then I'm your person.
Yeah. I have a friend that gives me deodorant, so I get it. I'm like, I love the idea of making it. However, I'm not that person, and I don't mind paying for the quality. So that's wonderful. Yeah. So tell me, now, are you health coaching at all? Do you coach people still? Or are you just focused on you do? Okay. So
I'm primarily focused on the oils, but I'm not going to turn somebody away that I can help. Yeah. So I do have some clients that I've been working with for quite a while with them and their children, and I continue to see them. When somebody finds me through Vibrant Blue and I know I can help them, I do. I'm not going to turn somebody away that I can help, but I do try to keep, I'm trying to be better with my boundaries. So I'm trying to focus the majority of my time on the business.
Right. So do you use the Vibrant Blue oils with those clients, or do you?
Yes.
Yes.
Every day. I mean, even this is kind of a funny story. It was a girlfriend's birthday last night, so I went out with my friends. My son comes home from soccer practice and he calls me and he's like, my leg is killing me. I got hurt in the leg and I feel super hot. And I'm like, all right. And he knows where all the oils are. I'm like, go get the nerve repair and you're going to rub that on your leg. Then you're going to put some peppermint on the bottom of your feet. You're going to call me back when you don't feel so hot. And he's like, okay, I feel better. But now I still, I'm like tired and kind of achy. And I'm like, all right, you're going to go and you're going to make an Epsom salt bath and you're going to do like a couple drops of lavender. And then I didn't hear from him. And I came home and he was like fast asleep. So, I use them every day in my life, and I'm teaching my children to use them. And I really want to empower people. I really feel like it's about teaching people, giving them that confidence, because so often when our body fails us and we fall into that state of dishealth, we lose confidence in ourselves. We think, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. Oh gosh, if there's something wrong with me, maybe I can't trust my intuition. And then you start going to doctors and trusting what they say, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. I really want to get people back to that state of confidence where the decisions I make impact my body. If I'm going to choose to have that glass of wine, I might wake up in the middle of the night, or if I eat the sugar, I might feel a little off. And if I don't, I'm going to feel better. And these are just tools to help you get there. I just want to make it easier for people to feel better.
I love it. I love that. And that is what this whole course is about. Helping coaches to empower their clients so that those clients go forward in their lives and they're able to help their own children and their own families. And then, your business is built through those people sharing how much more empowered they feel to be able to take care of themselves. Right. It's kind of an upside down, course, a different way of approaching this, because I see people out there signing people up for 3 months and then trying to bring them in as a lifetime client. I totally disagree with that. It goes against everything I believe we should be doing for people. Because if we give them the tools for their toolbox, then they're going to go on their way with that. And they're going to talk about, how much you gave them, how great you were. And that's how your business is going to be thriving. And truly, that's, to me, it's a way to coach with integrity. And that, you fit right into that. And I know we could have talked forever at Mindshare, and you had to go home and be with your child. And to be honest, I was down at the pool party for maybe 12 minutes. I was exhausted too. But, that was one thing that I found, and, I have in my notes about just how authentic you were. Because I tried to take some notes on some of the people I met. And just, you and Laura Adler. And so that's why I reached out, because you have something completely different and unique. You're an authentic person and you have a genuine concern for other people. It shows in what you do. So
I feel like, it's a little bit like there's like the therapeutic level, like they come to you, there's a lifetime of imbalance that you're trying to kind of bring back into balance. And so for that intense period, you are working very directly with them. And then I feel like they should almost go into remission, where it's a little bit like, the cars around the racetrack. They do need to make pit stops so that they can fix their tires and change their oil. But all in all, they don't need, it's not an ongoing intense relationship.
Right. I agree completely. So let's do this. I'm going to save a couple of these questions for afterwards. Why don't you go ahead and share your slide deck, and then some of these questions may be answered while you're sharing.
Okay, perfect.
And you should have complete control of the screen by just going down, and you know how to do your screen share.
Are you seeing my screen?
No, not yet, but I am hearing background noise, and I'm not sure where it's coming from.
That is my dog.
Oh.
That would be my dog.
What's he doing?
What are you doing, Riley? He's chewing on a bone that I can take away from him. Hang on.
I had to lock my basset up downstairs. Both of the bassets are locked up in the docks, and it's just wandering around looking for someone.
Do you see my screen?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, and I'm happy to Riley. Hang on, let me do this actually. Let me plug in my new device and see if that kind of.
Welcome to technology, right? It picks up everything.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit better.
Okay,
I don't hear the dog anymore.
Thank you for letting me try out my new fancy toy.
Your fancy toy. Yeah.
This is a presentation that I created for the nutritional therapy community to help integrate oils into their practice.
Okay. Oh, dear. And I'm going to leave my mic open, but I'm going to be quiet just in case I have questions. Anybody, if I see the chat box light up or anything like that.
Okay, perfect. So basically, I already introduced myself. I'm the founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, and what I'm hoping, is that me?
Yep.
Sorry, guys. Is that better or worse?
About the same.
Okay, you know what? Just go without fancy stuff. What I'm hoping to cover is kind of what are essential oils, how you integrate them into your practice, and which oils to start with. So why integrate oils? I mean, we've got these great practices. We're helping people with their food. We're helping people with supplements. And that is amazing until it's not. It does probably 60 to 70% of what we need. And then there are those small gaps, the vegan client who can't take anything, the supplements that only contain gluten. They're contraindicated for some issues. They're children and they can't swallow supplements. So there are gaps that I believe essential oils really fill that are hard to reach with supplements alone. Okay, so essential oils are natural, highly concentrated essences that are extracted from herbs in their living state. And that's kind of important. We talk about the farm to table and the benefit of kind of eating things fresh out of the ground. I do think that the more food is processed or kind of taken away from its seasonal local time frame when it's frozen and transported, the more it kind of dies a little bit and ferments. And I think that there's something about capturing those herbs right when they're picked and then basically processing them immediately to make them into essential oils. And it's not just, we know a lot about the flowers, it's also, hang on, Riley, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm going to go get my dog and stop the bone. Hang on. I'm going to take this.
See, you guys, there's nothing fancy about technology when you're doing this kind of stuff. This is just the way life is for everybody. Things happen, and my dog bulldozed out of the gate the other day during class. You guys didn't hear him, but he came up and he opened the door by pushing on it. Thank God that didn't come through, but there he was.
Okay, well, that makes me memorable. My puppy now safely in his pen. Anyway, the point I wanted to make is that it's not just flowers. A lot of these are kind of wild grown trees, that grow forever, and we're just getting the resin from them. So there's kind of that natural state. It's not even, even when we grow things organically, we sometimes are helping them. A lot of times we're just pulling these directly from nature, which is, I think, really beneficial to the healing value. And, all of our oils are free from pesticides and fertilizers, adulterants, synthetic chemicals. And that's really important because they're really highly concentrated. Like one drop of peppermint oil can be the equivalent of 25 cups of peppermint tea.
Wow.
So you're really getting kind of a mega dose, which is why I'll get into kind of less is more. But it's important that you make sure that it's not just something that was synthetically created in a factory or in any way altered. So one of the things that I think is really important when we start working with nutrient-dense food and plants and the animals that eat those plants is that it kind of aligns. There's this idea of homeostasis and aligning with nature. And I do believe that kind of eating food in its natural state and taking oils in its natural state helps the body align. And I think that when we're in that state of homeostasis, which is kind of our innate intelligence, it really allows the body to heal itself. It's a little bit like, if you have a headache, sometimes if you just drink water and get sleep, you aren't doing anything. You're just letting the body return to balance, and then the body knows what to do. It knows how to heal itself. And that's what's supposed to happen, this whole idea of stress, right? There's this great book, Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And it talks
that book. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Fabulous, right?
Yeah.
But the main point for me is this idea that the lion is chasing us, the zebra runs really fast, the breathing kind of helps release the stress, and then it collapses and it goes back into balance. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe, how our bodies were designed and how things used to work. But the stress that we face in this day and age is very different. It's much more chronic and prolonged. And it's driven not only by the zebra chasing us, bad traffic, something stressful on the news, something stressful in our job, with our relationship with our children, but with kind of these recurring thoughts. Like, a lot of women that come to me were molested at some point in their life, maybe in college, and their body is still holding on to that trauma because they didn't really know how to release it. And so there's kind of that underlying current of fear, and that they, could be hurt somehow. And that causes a stress response in the body. The body can't really differentiate between the external physical stress or the anticipatory stress, like fear or anger or worry or trauma. And so when it's in that constant state of stress, it imbalances our innate intelligence. We never have kind of that, like, if you think about the cyclicality in nature, the tide goes out, the tide comes back in, the sun rises, it sets. Everything kind of has a pattern, and off, on, and in, out. And that's true of our bodies too. And we're not supposed to maintain the on switch forever.
Yeah, I remember, let me say this, when I messaged you when we had just gotten back from Mindshare, and I was getting back into my normal, routines and whatnot, and I was using the parasympathetic oil blend that you gave me, it felt different than it did when I was there.
Yes.
Because when I got into a different environment, when I used it out there, it almost helped me just like survive. Because that, as you know, that was like a whirlwind. There was no sleep. It was, parties and coffee and Bulletproof and Dave and too much of Dave. And, but then you get home and I've put back into my calm environment for the most part, but the stress of launching a course and whatever. And I put it on and I automatically felt exhausted, like sleepy.
Yes.
And I asked you, is this normal? Why am I feeling so tired? And you said specifically, the body is not meant to live in the sympathetic nervous system at all times. It's trying to balance you out. And I felt it, physically felt it. So I skipped it one day just to test and see. And I didn't get that like head on the table feeling. And I did it again the next day I used it. And it made me feel that way again. I've never had an oil or a product like do that to me before.
Well, I think, the very intention behind these oils is to put you back in balance. That's really what I call it, the dirty windshield. I think that, when your windshield is dirty, you really can't see where you're going and make good decisions when you're driving. I think we're like that in life. And I think it's all these toxins, the caffeine addiction, the sugar addiction, the carbohydrate addiction, everything. And we kind of get used to it because it kind of feels fun, like I go off and on coffee, but the reason I always go back on is because I kind of like that buzz. It kind of feels, good to me. And I think that's pretty common. And so sometimes it's those stressors that we get used to it. It kind of gets in our field and we expect it. But when you start to clear off, even just removing sugar for some people, that's a big shift. And suddenly they can see more clearly. And sometimes they actually start to experience their body for the first time. Like if you're constantly adrenalized, you might not recognize that you have underlying pain or underlying anxiety or depression. And when you start to clear off those layers, people actually start to experience what it's like to be present. And that can be a little jarring sometimes.
Yes.
Oils are a great way to support them through that. And my oils in particular, I really looked at it through the lens that I look through nutritional healing through. So supporting stress, digestion, gut health, blood sugar, detoxification, and sleep. And with gut health, I've included inflammation because I think that's I think they go in tandem.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
And so our blends, what's different about us? There are lots of good oils out there. I'm sure they're all great companies. I was really looking through the lens of this idea that there is a blueprint in nature. I believe this is why stem cells work. You start as a ball of stem cells and somehow they know how to become a liver, a pancreas, a gallbladder, a brain, and even when you're using stem cells to kind of reboot the body, like I use the example of, your phone is messing up. Somehow the email isn't working, the picture thing's not working. What do? You turn it off and you turn it back on. I'm sure there are wiser technology people than myself on this call who know other tricks, but that's my trick. When something isn't working, I just turn it off and reboot it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we can do for the body. I think that by using stem cells or by using oils that have that blueprint. Plants and humans are biofamiliar. We have the same chemistry. We're all carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. And we also have the same blueprint. So you can kind of combine different plants to match the blueprint of different organs. And then by applying them over the organ, it's a little bit like a flotation advice, or the example I really like to use is when you're teaching a child to ride a bike. That is such an interesting, different place to put the body. You're moving forward and you're balancing at the same time. And it's one of those things, if you've ever taught more than one child to ride a bike, it's not like there's a formula, like day 1 you do this, day 2 you do this, day 3 you do this. It's more like you are just putting them in balance, and then at a certain point their body recognizes that balance and they don't need you anymore. And some kids it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's a year, but it's how long the body takes to remember. And that's what the oils are doing. They are giving you a little bit of a flotation device, like, hey, gallbladder, remember this is what it's like to be in balance. And then at a certain point the gallbladder remembers and doesn't need you anymore. And so it's working. I believe there are overlaps and parallels to what food does and what supplements do, but I do think that there's also kind of a different level where oils can kind of bring you back to balance. And so that's why the majority of our oils are these proprietary blends that were developed to balance the different organ systems and the brain and the emotions. And the interesting thing about blends, singles are amazing. I think everyone has kind of their favorite single oil and they've all had positive experiences, but it's an interesting idea. Like when you go to one of those amazing restaurants and they combine ingredients that would never have occurred to you to put together, and somehow it tastes different and amazing. I do believe that the combination of oils can really both enhance the qualities that were already present and also bring out new qualities. And so I think it's a real synergistic opportunity to kind of bring the body to balance.
And so you depend on, what was her name again? The person, she blends for you, correct?
Yeah, I have a woman in California who, she's really interesting. She was raised by missionaries, so she grew up kind of all over the globe. Really, she is an old school medicine woman. Wow. And she takes the plants and she really knows her stuff. She's kind of unbelievable. I trust her implicitly to source the oils and then to combine them. I create the formulas and then I test them. My process is kind of intuition. What is it that really needs to be created? And then I kind of go into a deep meditation and create them. And then I test them and refine them. Because it's never, some people might get it right on the first time. I always like to, if the deadline was a week away, I would get paper done a week in advance, and then I'd spend the next week like fixing it. So that's how it works.
I get that, completely get that. So you just said that you meditate on it. Tell me how that came to you. Like how did that process come to you as something that would be powerful enough to create something like this?
By accident.
Mm-hmm.
I call them downloads. I don't know where they come from. Sometimes it often happens near water. Like if I'm running near water or in the shower or in yoga, I'll
Mm-hmm.
just suddenly get a very clear idea. One blend, the histamine balance blend, my son, it turns out is very sensitive to mold. I didn't know this, but 24 to 28% of the population, their immune systems don't necessarily recognize mold. So it's
Okay.
impacting them, but they're not fighting it off. And if you think about, just think of, I guess, like a measuring cup, we have so much capacity for stress. And once we've hit that capacity, we start to overflow.
Right.
And if your body is chronically dealing with mold and isn't able to combat it, then you're going to hit that stressor pretty quickly. So the way it presents in him is that he's coughing like a madman in the middle of the night. We're in different bedrooms and I can hear him. So in the middle of the night, I hear him and I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I can fix that. I can help this. And I went downstairs, went into my office, and basically, I'll just tell you the way I do it is I muscle test. I kind of, if it's good, I lean forward, I put my hand on a row and I find it, pull it out. And then when I have the ones that I'm working with, I'm like, is this complete? And I'll either get a yes or a no. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
no, I'll look for more. And then I'll start to ask how many drops of each. And so I did that. And I combined it and I had the wherewithal to write it down. And I went back upstairs to his bedroom and I put it like behind his ears and the back of his neck and a little bit kind of on the back of his chest. And he literally stopped coughing because it still works to this day. It always surprises me because he sounds like, he's going to hack up a lung and then suddenly he's fine. I went back to sleep and the next day I woke up and I looked at what I had done and I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. Like, cause I was in the dark. I was just kind of picking in the dark, but I'm not particularly religious, but experiences like this definitely make me think there is something. I don't know that I think it's me or that I have some gift. I think that I just open myself up enough that, guidance is given to me.
I love that. I love that. And, truly, when we are not listening to our instincts and our intuition enough because we're so bombarded by daily living. And that's one of the parts of that I'm teaching on this as well is in this course is helping our clients to learn how to listen to themselves and not everyone else around them. That even if I'm coaching you, I tell my clients that I still work with one-on-one. I say, don't listen to your doctor, don't listen to your spouse, don't listen to me when it comes to making decisions for yourself. I want you to learn how to tap in and listen to yourself, your instincts, your intuition, everything you need to know to make good choices for yourself is inside of you. So I love that you have been able to open your mind and your heart, so to speak, to hear those messages for yourself. It's great.
Well, and it's interesting because most of the people that find me, that it's a combination. They want very specific directions because they don't want to do it wrong. They've been spending so much time, money, and energy on different things that maybe worked or maybe didn't. They really want to make sure they're doing it right. But then they also are quite intuitive. So it's this delicate balance of, if you want very specific directions, here they are. But I encourage you to listen to your intuition as well. Like one client just told me she's using our anti-inflammatory oil. She's got a heart condition that was kind of aggravated by, they did some soap near her esophagus. And so she applies it over the esophagus. And I was like, that's probably perfect. I'm sure that's exactly what you need. Like, I think that it's important to keep both doors open, saying if you want specific directions, here they are. But also if you get an intuition, totally follow that. Like, don't, just because I didn't tell you to do something doesn't mean you take it off the table.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. So these are just not too much self-promotion, but basically when I was looking at the body and how to bring it into balance, it was very obvious that the organ systems needed to be balanced. But then it was interesting to me. We know that the brain needs glucose, oxygen, and stimulation. And stimulation can come in the form of thought. It can come in the form of, if you've ever been to a functional neurologist and they have you do like eye tracking, tapping can be stimulation. It can also be stimulatory oils. So oils can be applied to stimulate or sedate different areas of the brain. Like the frontal lobe is often the ADD part. So citrus oils are great for that. You can apply a little lemon or orange, whatever you or your kid likes better. Like let yourself and your sense of smell be your guide. But you can also stimulate like the hypothalamus. So the first stress response is the sympathetic, parasympathetic fight or flight response. The second line when you're in chronic and prolonged stress is the hypothalamus, which is a part of your brain, tells the pituitary, another part of your brain, to tell your adrenals to start releasing cortisol. And it starts this whole stress cascade that I'll get into in a minute. But sometimes what happens is the hypothalamus is in charge, right? So it tells the system to release cortisol, and sometimes there's enough. Like sometimes there's enough cortisol in the system. And the reason it shuts down is because the hypothalamus gets the message, we're good. You can, stop sending out the message. But if it's constantly being bombarded, sometimes it's a little overwhelmed. Like for anyone who has more than one child, if they're both having a crisis and trying to talk to you at the same time, you can't necessarily hear either one. So you have to like pause and it's your turn, then it's your turn. So the hypothalamus, we have an oil that kind of brings it back into balance. It's that same kind of pause, reboot your phone kind of mechanism. And then the other discovery that was really interesting to me is this idea that it's our thought patterns and our emotions that can cause stress responses. For example, if you're really angry at something, you're constantly, every time you go into that place of like, oh, my boss doesn't understand me, I'm so upset, you're triggering a stress response in your body. And so if you can help to release those emotions, like you might be right, your boss might not be making good choices, but you have options. You can quit your job, you can talk to them in a way that they can hear you, you can change things. Like you don't need to be stuck in this anger pattern, and the oils kind of open you up to those possibilities. And then symptom support. If someone is coming in and they're taking a lot of pain meds, it's hard to take something away without replacing it with something else. So giving them something, you were working on the underlying situation, but Rome wasn't built in a day. You're 47 years old. You didn't come here. This didn't happen yesterday. So it might take a couple months to a year to undo. And while we're doing that, here are some things that can help you manage your pain or your digestion or all these other issues. So that's kind of the way I structured it, basically based on what made sense to me in my practice. And then, if you want help guiding people to certain oils, my big thing is that I feel like, again, with two kids trying to talk to you at once, the body gets overwhelmed. And if you're throwing 20 supplements at it at the same time, or say that someone comes into you and, a typical person, they're really stressed out, they're having anxiety attacks, they're not sleeping so well, they maybe wake up several times during the night, they probably have leaky gut, they probably have an inflamed liver, maybe their blood sugar's messed up. They basically run the whole gamut. If you try to address everything at once, the body's going to be overwhelmed. So trying to prioritize, like, all right, you're not sleeping. No wonder you're tired and hungry and have brain fog. Like, let's just get you to sleep. Let's just start there. And then once you're sleeping, maybe the brain fog and the energy issues will go away and we can focus on, then maybe inflammation is going to be your big priority. So I really try to give people tools to help both the practitioner and the end user, like checklists where they can kind of look through this and see like, oh my God, that is totally me. Like I had no idea that all these little things that I thought were my quirky personality added up to this one issue, to help guide them through it.
Yeah, that's great. And, part of what and I keep saying this, but we seem to have such a parallel belief system when it comes to helping our clients and helping people. I believe there are 5 real true foundations for health. And if we just start with those things, yes. So many times we leap past the fact that someone's still eating gluten and we automatically, suggest that they get treated for leaky gut or try an elimination diet. Why don't we just take that one thing out yes. of their diet or their food plan, take out the gluten or tell them, to consider this and see what happens. Let's just not go the whole, let's not go the whole gamut, and let's start with the small steps. The real basics of human need. I think it's just being, and holistic and naturopathic medicine, or functional medicine are doing wonderful things for everyone. But I think part of the thing is that we are leaping past the basics and the simple things that we could do. And we're diving headfirst into all the complexities and testing and labs and diseases instead of just taking a step back, which is what you're doing here with your oils as well. Like, how about let's just go to bed?
Yes.
How about that sleep thing? Yeah.
Yes. Make sure you're drinking water and get some sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Great.
And even, it's interesting. I don't know, but I think I tend to attract people that are like me. And as a mom, you give and you give and you give. You've got your husband, you've got your job, you've got your children. You never ever take, and like the idea of even taking like 5 minutes to read like, a stupid magazine to yourself feels like, oh God, like when I was a baby, my kids literally would follow me in the bathroom. Like I never got a moment to myself. And I think we need to, people always say like, put the oxygen max on yourself first, but I want to take it one step further. I want to say, you know what, if you only have 1 second, rub your earlobes. Like the ears have all of the reflex points for every emotion in the body. Even if you're sitting in the car at a stoplight, on the way to preschool, just do that for yourself. Like I want to give people really small, really actionable, really easy things. Take an oil, you can carry it in your purse, you can bring it on the airplane, just smell it, just rub it behind your ear, just things that I think, when we tell people like, oh, you have to reduce your stress, and they're like, well, how am I going to do that? I know I have a stressful job, but it pays me a lot of money and I need that. I know I have kids and they're a nightmare sometimes, but I'm not abandoning that, like just helping people, giving them these small, actionable, very easy things that will make a little difference because it builds.
Yeah, it does. And it's funny you say that about the earlobe. My mom and dad have 5 grandchildren. And one of the things my dad has always done is they sit in, since they're babies, tiny, tiny babies, he's put them in his lap and he's rubbed their earlobes. And it's the one thing that has just knocked them out since they were tiny. And we have pictures of every single kid where he's rubbing their earlobe and they're sucking their thumb or they've fallen asleep. My mom did reflexology on me when I was little for stomach aches and things like that. So simple and so powerful. If we could just return to those basics. I mean, I love that. I love that you approach.
Well, no, and just starting small, you're building confidence as you go, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about yoga, right? Like you do some kind of balance move and you're like, oh my God, I stayed in it. I can't believe it. Whatever else I can do. And then you suddenly are doing handstands and you're like, wow, because every little win gives you more confidence for the next one.
Yes.
And so that's where I think oils play a really nice role because you can feel them, from the minute you inhale it, it's like 20 seconds into your brain. Like you can feel it so quickly. Is that going to solve years of eating foods that you were sensitive to and chronic inflammation? No, but it's a really good first step, to get you there.
Yep. Great. Love it.
Okay. So, and then the protocol that I went through, they have kind of neuro-lymphatic points that you test. So I offer a bunch of checklists, quizzes, videos, just showing people some tools you can use. Like my favorite, this is a muscle test for the pancreas. You put your thumb and your pinky together, and then you use 2 fingers and try to pull it apart. And if it pulls apart, it means that your pancreas is in stress. And it's interesting, if you have someone touch like anything with sugar, they'll lose all ability to do this. I have a hypothesis. This is one of the reasons people get carpal tunnel. They're at their desk, they're typing, the signal from the pancreas to these fingers aren't getting through. And so the wrists have to work harder. And, then it suddenly starts to cause pain. But you can do this test and then either have them smell, hold, or apply the pancreas oil. Do it again. It will become much more solid. It's also a good way if you have kids that, kind of want to be good athletes or be superheroes. You can show them like, look, you're so strong now. Hold this sugar. Oh, look, you can't hold anything. It's just, it's an easy, fun party trick.
Love it. I love that. Somebody's asking, are these assessment tools, these are on your website. Is that correct?
So, okay. I originally was a little bit, bipolar in the website, and I marketed to both the end consumers and the practitioners at the same time. And I think that was confusing for people. So what I did is I made the website 100% consumer, and then the very top corner, there's a little link for practitioner. If you click on that and fill it out, you will be invited to this member area where it gives you all the information you could possibly want as a practitioner.
Okay, great. And I've got access to that. That's where I go when I, do any affiliating or I look up your information. So I'll make sure that everybody gets, a link to that for sure.
Great. And then which oils work best? So we kind of designed some kits to work around. I don't know what your big 5 are, but mine are stress, digestion, blood sugar, detox, and gut repair, which is inflammation. And then, I really do believe, I want to talk a little bit about the oils. Less is more. I try to get people come on and they're like, I want to buy everything. And I'm like, no, pause. Don't do that yet. Like, let's start, with your priorities and work from there. And so I really try to tell people at any given time, don't apply more than 3 at the time, and then really try to focus on your key area. But there is a small exception to that, the ones that I call perennials. we've made them in these small 5 milliliter bottles. The idea being that when you're done with the bottle, you might not need it anymore.
Oh, I love that.
Put it back in balance. And so you don't have to buy, I don't know, like I used to go to Costco and it would make me crazy because I would never get through all this stuff. It's like having these huge expensive things that if you don't actually use it, it's not that beneficial. So instead of giving you this ginormous bottle, we give you what we think you actually need. And then by the time you're done with it, you don't need it anymore. The ones that we do have people use on an ongoing basis, so the parasympathetic blend, we talked about that kind of fight or flight response. And what I've noticed happens, what certainly happened to me, is that the body triggers the sympathetic response, where a good way to notice is if your pupils are really dilated. It's actually a good way to know if you should talk to somebody about something that's sensitive, because when your pupils are dilated, it means you're in the sympathetic state, and all non-essential to survival things shut down, including rational thinking. So they can't really have a rational conversation with you unless, here's my hack, you take a little bit of this stimulatory oil. So the on-off switch between the sympathetic fight or flight and the parasympathetic rest and digest state is this vagal nerve, cranial nerve number 10. It starts at the very base of the skull, kind of runs around the earlobe on both sides, and then down through every digestive organ. And it's really what turns on that whole digestive cascade where you're able to absorb and assimilate your nutrients. It releases saliva from the mouth, the enzymes from the pancreas, HCl from the stomach, bile from the gallbladder, basically everything, like even constipation. People call it the poop oil, because it helps with constipation if that's an issue. So just applying that, even if it's just on your kid's ear or your earlobe before you eat, kind of turns on that digestive cascade, and it also turns off that sympathetic cascade. So this is like one small health hack to kind of hack into that system and put you back into homeostasis. You had this stressful event, you need to return to balance. So this one I love, and I do this every day before every meal. I carry it in my car. People say that it helps them in stressful traffic, that if they have to do an interview, it helps them. This one I kind of, believe should be used on an ongoing basis.
It's my favorite, to be honest with you. It's my favorite. I have like 9 of your oils right now. And that is my absolute favorite. And my kids too. I mix it in with some carrier oil if I want to do a real good massage on him, and I start behind his ears and work on his neck. And it's amazing. I mean, he's a meditating kid too. Like, he's one of those kids. So I can tell the minute that I start with this, it's just a complete change in him.
Yeah, and it's great. And this is, if you're talking to clients, I really love trying to explain the sympathetic parasympathetic state, because I feel like Robin Wright in one of her videos said, you can't unknow something. Once you know it, you have to own it. Mm-hmm. And I think this is an important thing to really teach our clients and have them teach their children, just to kind of monitor what state you're in, because then you're more self-actualized and able to really make decisions with clarity, and to recognize where you're at.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our guide this is the secondary stress response. The stressor hits, it triggers the hypothalamus to then tell the pituitary, I'm giving you all the chemicals, which there's no test later, to then tell the adrenals to release cortisol. And so sometimes when, it's a little bit like the race car. If it keeps going around the racetrack, at a certain point, the tires need to be changed, the oil needs to be changed. We just need to make sure that the hypothalamus is in balance. And so just applying the oil, it's a little bit above the third eye. And you can do it often, or if you're trying to, I don't know what kind of assessment protocols you work, but sometimes when you're testing someone, if they're not testable, like if they're off, just resetting that hypothalamus can kind of get them back, so you can actually test them. It drops them into their body and their sense of balance enough to kind of make them testable. And then my favorite oil is actually our adrenal oil. And what's interesting about the adrenals is that often they're either working too hard and they're kind of hyper, or they're exhausted and they're hypo. And, if you look at, I don't know if you do saliva samples where people look at their cortisol levels, you change throughout the day, right? Yeah. So sometimes you are working too hard and sometimes you are exhausted. So sometimes just giving someone one supplement, it's hard. What we were taught to do is, figure out if they're hyper or hypo and then give them the supplements accordingly. But I find, maybe I'm just different, but I go up and down during the day. So I like things that put you more in balance, be that adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha or rhodiola, or this oil that you can apply to the adrenal glands that put you in balance. the best thing about this oil to me is that you can just smell it and it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at my lowest low, I would have anxiety attacks in supermarket lines. I couldn't tell you why, but I would like go through the supermarket and then there would be this crazy long line and I would suddenly be like, oh my God, I have to leave. I can't be here, which is ridiculous because then it just means you'd have to come back and do it all over again. So I'd really try to muster through, but the oil really helps me. I like feel it and I'm like, okay, it's like very calming and settling. It really helps my daughter. Getting her to start her homework is a hurdle. Like once she actually is in it and doing it, but she kind of goes through this whole dance of like, I don't know anything, I'm just stupid, so just getting her to jump in, the oil really helps with that too.
So let me ask you this about the adrenal oils. Gosh, I wish I had them on my trip to Austin this past weekend. I brought 4 of the oils with me and honestly did not experience the same kind of stress that I normally feel, like that internal kind of, the internal, you know what I'm talking about? Like
yes.
we slept in some crazy places. We did some crazy things. Normally I would be on edge. My dog had some problems while I was gone. So I have this underlying buzz of not anxiety because I don't have panic or anxiety, but I have this feeling like something feels unsettled for me. And I didn't have that at all on this trip. I completely let go, enjoyed myself. We even rode bikes for 2 days in the streets of Austin, Texas, all over the place. And my 11-year-old was on a bike in traffic in a strange city. And I did not have that. I mean, I was like, okay, honey, be careful, look to your left kind of thing. But I didn't have my teeth clenched in my fists on the handlebars like I normally would have, worried about him. I don't know if that's the difference or not, but also wanted to ask you, now it says on the bottle to put on your adrenals, which we know are in the back, right? Sitting on top of the kidney.
Yes.
Where else can you put them? Or is there anywhere else you can put them? Because my husband has flight anxiety and we don't even like to sit with him because he's like a big 10-year-old. He gets all nervous, starts to chew his fingers. And then we're like, oh God, there goes daddy again. And I obviously can't rub his back with this on a plane because that would be a little weird. What can I do with it next time we fly for him?
I would just have him smell it. You know what I sometimes do is I put a little bit like right here and then I just kind of go like this.
I can't see you. Where's right here?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just right on the inside of the hand. Or, you can do it. Put a drop on a cotton ball and for a woman you can put it in the bra, for a man maybe in the pocket, just like somewhere, or on a tissue. Just I would like put it kind of within level of detection smelling, just so he can smell it.
Okay.
Bottom of the feet are great for everything else. You might not want to do that on a plane, or just put it on you so he can smell you.
And I have to sit with him then.
Oh, well, okay.
It's just an ongoing family joke because the first time it happened, my son was like, Dad, you're embarrassing me, because he was like just so nervous. But anyway, okay, that's a good idea.
I would put it on before you get on the plane.
Okay, good idea.
Like just, when you're standing there, like give him a hug and, rub it on him when he's not noticing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me ask you this real quick. Someone said, do you do the Bach flower remedies? I've done Bach flower remedies for a year. Do you have thoughts about those?
Oh, I think they're fantastic. I think that there's an overlay. It's a little bit like concentric circles, right? I think that there are aspects that the flower essences hit that oils also hit. And then I think they work really well in tandem. I think that those really get to underlying emotional issues. I love the Bach flower essences. I think they're great.
Good. Now, are you going to, you don't have a line for animals yet, do you? Because Bach flower, I put that in my dog's, she's passed now, but when she had real bad anxiety, I used to use Bach flower in her water for anxiety. Are you planning on doing something for animals at some point?
That's a great question. Obviously you encountered my puppy. He loves frankincense. He's really, I've been starting, probably because I've been getting interested in it because of him. But, I'm also motivated by, he's 8 months, so he doesn't really have any health issues at all. It's more when something presents in my life or my family's life and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to fix that. How do I unravel that? And that's when I learn the most because I'm highly motivated to figure things out.
Right.
So the answer is yes, I will probably go in that direction. I'm not sure about the timing.
Got it. Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you. Okay. So, and then we're getting short on time. So I was just going to show you the hypothalamus kind of controls all of the in and out signals for all of the endocrine organs. So the thymus, the adrenals, the pancreas, thyroid, obviously. So sometimes when those organs are out of balance, just balancing the, the master gland can help. So this is one of the other things. Sleep is complicated because sleep can be a number of factors. It could be that they're having problems falling asleep, which is because of high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Melatonin is the sleep hormone. They work kind of in tandem, but opposite to each other, which makes sense because if a lion is chasing you, if you really laid down and took a nap, you'd be dead. So It kind of turns it off. And so that's why people that have a lot of adrenal issues, a lot of high cortisol, their mind can't stop working. They're so tired that they can't fall asleep. And that's because of high cortisol, low melatonin. So it is the pineal gland in the brain that triggers the release of melatonin. So what we do is we have an oil that you apply kind of right on the top of the head, right above the ears in the very back of the head, and it triggers the pineal gland to naturally release melatonin. So think of it, cortisol is high, melatonin is low. When melatonin goes up, it's a back door to lowering cortisol and anxiety. And there are all these rhythms that are tied to cortisol and the adrenal function that I'm going to do this class and I will get into that. But this is just another really good hack for people who have insomnia. The other sleep issues are detoxification, like liver issues and blood sugar issues that can wake you up, and hormonal issues.
Yeah.
So this is the one for trouble falling asleep. It's not necessarily the one for if you wake up in the middle of the night.
Right. Those two, they compete with each other for sure. Melatonin and cortisol, they're great competitors. And boy, when there's stress going on, then, cortisol is like a bully. Melatonin doesn't seem to stand a chance, if we don't control it.
That's a great analogy. That's very well put. And so how to apply them? I'm a big fan of inhalation. Inhalation is actually the most effective. It goes straight into the limbic system and it kind of bypasses thought, like, how you might have a response to smells, a very strong sense. Mm-hmm. It's because it doesn't go through all the layers in your brain. It goes straight into the limbic system where emotions are stored. And so that's also why oils can really help you release emotions. I'm a big fan of topical application. You can put anything on the bottom of the feet, especially for kids. I would recommend diluting. They're very powerful, especially when you're starting. Don't just jump in, start slow and ease up. The ears are really great, especially for, emotional issues. Some of the blends are a little hot. They have things like cinnamon and clove, and so it might make the skin a little red. Peppermint. I would just be careful, dilute, kind of make sure you're not getting red or it doesn't feel too hot. I'm not a big fan of internally consuming them, mostly because I don't think it works very well. I think it's the least efficient way. I think that the acid in the stomach and all the enzymes in the liver change it. I think that the people who swear by it smell it when it, is being digested. So that's just my suggestion on how to apply them. And then where to apply, again, we have kind of specific suggestions. We totally encourage you and your clients to go with your own intuition. There are several ear charts that I find fascinating that I'm going to start to put out more, but all the organs can be found on the ears, and all of the issues that I think are really related to stress tend to be kind of on the outside. So even just without an oil, rubbing those parts of the ears can really help. Even if it's just, you wake up in the morning and as you're yawning and thinking about your day, you do it before you go to bed. Dosing, again, start slowly. It's better to do too little as opposed to too much, and they're extremely potent. And how often do you apply? I tell people to leave it by their toothbrush and just do it when they brush their teeth so they remember. If it works well for you, like when I was having my anxiety attacks, I basically never left the house without my adrenal oil because I knew it worked. So you can figure it out on your own. I think that's another place to allow people to tap into their own intuition. And then next steps, as a practitioner, you can set up a wholesale account, which means that all of our retail prices are $34.95. All of our wholesale ones are $20. They're different for the single oils. I do carry a few that I think are fantastic, and I just want to give people a high quality option, but not everything. And then we have a Getting Started with Essential Oils class. I'm working on a stress support class, and you can visit our training headquarters or place an order. And the benefits, we allow you to drop ship directly to clients. You can order at wholesale prices. You can carry it in your office or not. We're not multi-level. You don't need to have other people buy from us. You don't need to commit to anything. You can never order and just, like sometimes what I do on Facebook, just watch other people and not say anything. it's completely up to you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, actually, hold on a moment. Let's see here. Someone wants to know if the slides, Stephanie says, will the slides be available with the charts, etc.? Just like a PDF or a PowerPoint? Is that something that you're willing to share?
Yeah. If you sign up as a practitioner account, all of this information with the slides are available in kind of that backdoor area.
The dashboard, so to speak. That's what I call the dashboard. And I absolutely love your website is beautiful. It's almost soothing.
Oh,
You can go there. Yeah. Gabriella says, I really like the reminder to dilute the oils and start slowly. Yes, completely the opposite of what people who sell oils are doing. I find that to be true as well. And honestly, I know, Jodi, you're in the oil business, but I can tell you that when you're not, and you are being not pushed, but I mean, I guess kind of pushed at. Yeah, it is really hard to believe that these things can be so powerful, because it's kind of a turnoff. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but for me, when I found, just an authentic person, that was willing to share your gift without, you didn't ask me for anything. You just said, let me know how they work for you. And you gave me, 4 fantastic oils. I don't find many people that are in the oil business that are willing to let go of those things for free and ask for feedback and want an honest opinion about what works for them. So I just applaud that.
I think, in some ways I feel like it's a blessing that these friends came with this box and gave me no information, because I really went with my intuition. I think that once I started to read it, I was like, oh my God, it's like learning Chinese. Like, I don't know. It was just, of course now I know it, but at first it felt very overwhelming. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, diffusion. Diffusion is a good thing, but it's overused. It's level of detection. Diffuse for 5 to 20 minutes. You do not need to diffuse all day long. Less is more. It's like homeopathy, right? Less is more.
Right.
Don't need to overdo it.
So tell me, what is a good way, if you are working with, say you've got a client that comes to you with obvious thyroid symptoms, and their tests, they've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's or whatever, and they're on medication, they're working with the doctor. So we're not in charge of that part of their life, but they want something to make them feel better. So right. As I was explaining before how I use the accelerator oil, and I've been able to take my medication down to, almost undetectable amounts, truly, when it comes to people with thyroid problems. How would you tell a client, listen, I've got something that I think might benefit you? And if that person, because people are skeptical, they can be skeptical. Yeah. How would you explain how this might benefit them in a way that doesn't seem pushy, or might resonate with people who are just new to this holistic or health coach world?
Right. No, that's a terrific question. I think what you really need to do is say, don't change anything you're doing. Obviously, if you're comfortable with it, you are kind of managing it. And it's a little bit like treading water, right? You're not drowning, but you're not necessarily getting closer to shore. And what we want to do is we want to get you to shore so you don't need to tread water anymore. Because after a while, that gets really exhausting, and it can start to downregulate other systems. So let's keep what you're doing, certainly work with your doctor. And if you're feeling good, great. But let's also start to unravel some other things. So how we're going to do that, we're going to look at what you're eating and see if there are inflammatory foods in your diet, because obviously we know that inflammation causes autoimmune reactions and thyroid issues. Then we're also going to look at what might have caused this. Like, often there's a trigger, often it's a really traumatic event. It can be some big stressor in your life. It could be years of not sleeping. So while you're keeping all of your allopathic stuff, we're just going to start to support you to unwind it. And so, I think I would really try to focus on sleep, looking at their sleep, making sure they're sleeping, looking at their stress, helping them just make it easier to feel good, looking at their digestion. And then with the activator, I would just say, your thyroid is very, very mineral dependent. And we know that sometimes when you're inflamed or you have some gut issues, you're not assimilating your nutrients. That's why a lot of times you might be in the sun all the time or supplementing with a lot of vitamin D, but your result is still low. It's just not necessarily assimilating the right way because some of those doors are closed, and we're going to work on getting them open. But while we do that, sometimes topically applying things like oils that can be topically applied, like, if the front door is closed, you go around to the back door. And topical application is just another way to get these nutrients into your body that your body needs to function. So
Okay.
did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. The other thing I want to ask you about the thyroid water, what is in the thyroid water and why is it not an oil?
So you know how the body, there are certain nutrients that are vitamins that are water assimilated and certain nutrients that are oil assimilated,
Okay, yeah.
and they don't necessarily work in the same way, right?
Okay.
So oils, I believe, work better with the oil nutrients. And I started realizing, I also have Hashimoto's, and I also have been playing with how to fix myself and what to do. And I was really stumped by the fact that why are my nutrient level, why is my zinc so low when I'm supplementing with it? Why is my, like, what is happening and how come it's not being assimilated? Like, what am I doing wrong is kind of the place I go to. And then how can I do it better? And then I started, it's a weird story. I basically, I grew up in Seattle back before it was kind of this booming metropolis. It was a very woodsy community. I used to go hiking with my friend whose dad would always find crystals. I collected rocks my whole life, kept them in my room, brought them with me to college. Couldn't tell you why, just liked them. Wound up speaking to Deanna Minnick's group, and someone said, and studying crystals, because to be honest with you, the way people talk about crystals resonates more with me about what is right with oils. It's a little bit more of an earth medicine approach than kind of this miracle cure that was in the Bible, and so we should never question and just do it that way. So I was gradually learning more and more. And anyway, Deanna Minnick led me to this woman who is kind of a shaman and works with crystals, and she started telling me, it's kind of funny, she's like, don't get all arrogant, don't get all excited, but you're an Enoch or something. And I was like, I have no idea what that is, so why would I get excited? But basically what she told me is that I've been doing this work for a while and I work with crystals a lot, and that she has this special water, which I do believe in. I really am a fan of Emoto, and then there's a scientist out at the University of Washington named Jerry Pollock. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of structured water and really do believe that water is kind of this amazing carrier. It's the majority of the body. It's why I think bone broth is healing, because the water can be this carrier. And so she was telling me that I have to kind of create these formulas with the water, with her special water and the gems. And so I started to do that. And as I was doing it, I was getting, I call them downloads because I don't know what else to call them, this idea of bone broth, and that one of the reasons that it works so well is the combination of, we're kind of imbuing the minerals in the water, and somehow the water gets into our cells and our intercellular fluid in a way that supplements and food alone cannot. And so the idea, to be completely, utterly honest, it still feels a little bit like I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but it does seem to be working. But it was a little bit of this idea that we've got, our digestion is so impaired in part because of the GMOs, which I think really destroy our gut. I think that they're antibiotics, or they're patented antibiotics. And so it's very hard to heal just through what we consume with food and supplements alone. So I was looking for other workarounds, and I was recognizing that oils are amazing, but they're not a magic bullet. They don't do everything. They have their limitations, which is why I believe that flower essences and other modalities help. And I think that layering them, combining them helps. So I was just looking for, how else am I going to get these earth elements and minerals into my thyroid if it's not through the digestive system? So that, I hope that answers your question. It's super weird.
Yes. No, it's not weird at all. You've got a bunch of weirdos on here anyway. We're all interested.
Okay.
We're all interested in anything that's outside the box. And as Gabriella even says, I really like Jodi. I am passionate about Emoto studies. I bring it up all the time with my clients. And then we have Maria, who says, is there science or studies that support this? I'm okay to try it. If it works with some people, always ask, where's the science behind it? Which is true. As coaches, we are easier to buy in, try, we're guinea pigs. We're the best guinea pigs for what we believe to work with others. But, what if someone says to us, oh, come on, you've been putting thyroid accelerator on your throat. You've been putting water on your throat, and now your medication is down.
But what it is it's not just the water. That's where people, and there is, Jared Pollock has 2 amazing books on water and how it's totally programmable. So you can program it with thoughts. You can also, I'll just tell you what I've done. It's, I put the water I charge it with the crystals during certain moon phases, and then layer on color and intention. And it's this idea that water can assimilate programming. You can program the water, and then it goes in and kind of carries out that program in your cells. And it's just a different way to get there, you know?
Yep. And, you know, that always reminds me whenever, you know, we've talked about this before, I always see that water in my, you know, that water test that they do where you speak negatively to one thing and it turns into these, it doesn't turn out as beautifully as the water that you speak positively to, which turns into these beautiful patterns and crystals. What water study was that? I'm going to have to think about it.
Emoto does that research. And you can even, I mean, I'll show you, you can take your own water bottle and charge it with intention. Like someone told me, I don't know that you need to follow this protocol, but like you kind of breathe in and imagine like your intention and light flowing out from your hands into your bottle and do it like 3 times. I think you can do that all the time. I think you, you know, I am a believer that prayer really works and that there's so much that intention can do for health.
Yeah, I love that. Why don't you go ahead and hit the screen share button so we can see you again while we wrap up.
Okay, great.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I even screen shared the picture of the parasympathetic, like the earlobes and all that jazz, so I could remember it for later. Even though I can go back and get it in, you know, in the back end of the dashboard, I still wanted a quick reference, for where to put the oils and so on. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Jodi or anything they want to ask or want clarity on? You know, feel free to now's the time.
Or you're welcome to email me. My email is Jodi, Jodi, at vibrantblueoils.com. I'm happy to answer questions offline too.
Yep. Hang on a second. Let me type that in here. vibrantblueoils.com. And I keep sending it to your other one. I must have gotten that one from you at the summit or something. So I need to remember to use that one.
They all get to me. All roads lead to me. It's fine.
Okay. I typed in Jared Pollock. You've talked to him about 2 or 3 times in here. Is it Pollock?
It's Gerald.
Oh, Gerald. Okay.
Yeah, or I call him Jerry because I know him. But yeah, he's at the University of Washington. And I'll email it to you. I have both of his books. It's like Water is the Fourth Element. He's fascinating.
Great. I would love it. Love it. And then I'll share that with them as well. I'll share that in the group page also. So I want to thank you for your time today. I could sit and talk to you forever about this stuff. And I just really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us and to share, you know, what I think is an exceptional product and just your knowledge in general. It's just refreshing to have authenticity delivered to us in such a way. You know, you're saying if it's not for you, it's not for you. I'm that way too. I'm like, I'm not for everyone. You know, we all have people that we gravitate towards. So I'm just really glad that we got to gravitate to each other and that we get to share a room next year at Mindshare. That'll be fun. It's going to be the best smelling room in the block, but
we'll have a instead of doing whatever they might be doing in other rooms, they can come have a smell bar in ours.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for jumping on today. I will share the resources. I'll get you Jodi's link and the resources that she shares with me. I will share with you. And
you know what? I'll give you guys a coupon. I'll give you like a 20% off for your first order coupon. So I'll pass that on. Just
yay!
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right. Well, go let your dog out of the crate. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting and everyone have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.